This is CBC Vancouver News.
All of a sudden we hit something and the train really started violently shaking.
Plans derailed for more than 100 passengers after a Via Rail train grinds to a violent halt between Chilliwack and Hope. Plus, a significant roadblock for a proposed biofuel plant in South Surrey. The feds suddenly pulled nearly $15 million in funding. Also,
it's awfully cold today.
I'm gonna take the plunge.
How's this for an all-too-Canadian fundraiser? A polar plunge in the middle of a blizzard, all for the Special Olympics. Hi, I'm Tanya Fletcher. Thanks for joining us. More than 100 Via Rail passengers had their plans derailed last night shortly after leaving Vancouver. The train they were traveling on was damaged after suddenly hitting debris on the tracks near Agassiz. As our Janella Hamilton reports, it's left some passengers a little shaken, but grateful it wasn't more serious.
Dawn Bates' bags will stay packed for at least another couple of nights after the passenger train she was traveling on came to an abrupt halt between Chilliwack and Hope Friday evening.
All of a sudden we hit something and the train really started violently shaking and there was such a loud noise. And I thought it was another train going by. But looking at the team, I knew that there was something not right.
Via Rail confirms the train's engine and some cars were damaged after striking debris on the tracks. It goes on to say none of the 121 passengers or crew members on board were injured, but the damage did cause a fuel leak.
It was really quite scary, and then there was a very strong smell of diesel and a burning.
The diesel spill happened on a stretch of rail line owned by Canadian Pacific Kansas City, also known as CPKC. The company says its environmental teams have been deployed to investigate the damage and clean up. In an advisory, the local First Nation Seabird Island Band said there is no imminent danger to the community, but urges some communities not to use water until the local wells are tested.
First thing I did when I got here last night was call my children.
Bates says the passengers, including many kids, waited on board the train for several hours before being bused to hotels in Jasper, Kamloops, and Vancouver, where they'll stay until new travel arrangements are made.
I've got a contingency of a couple of days between each train connection, but we do need to have a few more answers, I think.
She says Via Rail and the hotel have gone above and beyond to help passengers, but she'd like to see greater transparency from the rail company. Neither RCMP, Via Rail, nor CPKC were able to confirm what the debris was or if it had been intentionally left there.
This could have been a much serious accident.
Agassiz RCMP are investigating the incident. Bates, who was on her way to Manitoba, remains hopeful she will reach her final destination eventually. Janella Hamilton, CBC News, Vancouver.
A controversial biofuel plant slated for South Surrey is suddenly up in the air. Federal funding for the project, amounting to nearly $15 million, has now been pulled. Natural Resources Canada today announced a decision to withdraw its financial backing. The facility was set to be built on Semiahmoo land, with construction starting as early as this summer. The First Nation has said the plant would divert waste from the landfill and bolster economic independence. For months, though, the project has drawn fierce backlash from many in the community concerned about air quality. The company behind the proposal, Andion Global, did not respond to our requests for comments. In Prince Rupert, an investigation is underway into the deaths of 19 eagles. It's believed they may have been poisoned by a toxic substance that was dumped illegally. This is file footage from the local landfill where it happened. City staff discovered the birds in early January. They were completely covered in the substance. The city says the site has since been cleaned up, and staff are working with a forensic chemist to identify the toxic material. Experts are reporting some hopeful news when it comes to herring populations on the West Coast. They play a vital role in the ecosystem as a food source for marine mammals and other fish species. Commercial fishing of herring has been closed for the last 3 years to let populations rebound. And according to Fisheries and Oceans, they're seeing promising results.
It's great to see biomass rebuilding and to hear from the nations in the areas that are part of the monitoring programs as well.
Fisheries and Oceans Canada says there's been an increase of as much as 50% in spawning herring. This is welcome news for recreational fishermen.
Yeah, you still get excited. It's like how much we're going to catch and how's it going to be.
The herring biomass has been increasing steadily over the last 6 to 8 years. And this coming year, the biomass is projected to be quite a bit larger still, which recreational fishermen will be able to take advantage of while the waters stay closed to commercial fishing operations once more this year. Well, meanwhile, just off the west coast of Port Renfrew, an internationally renowned tourist fishing destination is under threat of being shut down. Canada's Department of Fisheries and Oceans is in the final stages of a proposal to close the area. Ottawa hopes the move will ultimately bolster the food supply to the southern resident orcas. One advocate says more focus should be aimed on climate change and the new predator that it's brought to our waters.
They should focus on getting rid of the California sea lions before they start worrying about the whales, because those California sea lions are migrating north because of the warmer water temperatures. We never had California sea lions in our waters before until the water warmed up.
The Port Renfrew Chamber of Commerce claims the DFO is not listening to their concerns. The DFO was not available for comment. A decision on this proposal is expected in the coming weeks. Well, BC's top court has shot down another attempt by the province to ban public drug use. The BC Court of Appeal is rejecting the government's bid to appeal a pause on the law that restricts illicit substance use in many public spaces. The pause was imposed during a legal challenge of that new law launched by advocates.
This is about whether this legislation causes irreparable harm and puts lives and safety at risk.
Public Safety Minister Mike Farnworth, who brought the case forward, says he is disappointed with the decision. The province says it will continue fighting for its law, arguing it aims to help drug users find services while keeping the public safe. A trial will be held later this year to determine if Bill 34, which was passed last fall, is in fact constitutional. The death of a former Winnipeg Blue Bombers player this week has again brought attention to stigma attached to colorectal cancer. The 33-year-old's death came as a surprise to many, but as Saurabh Sandhu explains, not surprisingly, experts say early detection can be a lifesaver.
Just 4 years ago, Craig Rowe was living the dream, raising the Grey Cup after winning the CFL's top prize. But on Wednesday, fans were shocked when his wife announced the defenseman's death on social media, opening up about the struggle Rowe went through after his cancer diagnosis 18 months ago. Hearing of Rowe's death brought another former BC Lions player back to some unpleasant times. Star kicker Louis Passaglia was diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer in 2013.
I was shocked at the age of the young man.
Now cancer-free, Passaglia works to raise awareness of colorectal cancer, advocating for early diagnosis and treatment.
My community involvement here in Vancouver and BC, that maybe I could put the word out there that, hey, I'm not the only one. There's a lot of people, both men and women, that are diagnosed with colon cancer.
This March for Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month, there's a push for people to get screened. According to the Canadian Cancer Society, in 2023, more than 24,000 Canadians were expected to be diagnosed with colorectal cancer.
I was feeling the best I'd felt in years, but I was ignoring serious symptoms.
Michael Butterfield is another colorectal cancer survivor who was first diagnosed in 2019. But he says telling his family and friends was not easy.
Anything that has a rectum in it is really embarrassing. So I just told people I had stomach cancer. It took me probably about a year to refer to it as colorectal cancer.
Butterfield says he was diagnosed at first stage, which greatly increased his chances of survival.
It's 95% preventable. If you have a colonoscopy on a regular basis and they find polyps, which are precancerous masses, they can remove them. And in most cases, that's the end of it.
Butterfield now works as an ambassador for Colorectal Cancer Canada.
Get checked out regardless of your age. And if you don't and you're over 50, find out what the symptoms are.
This is something that if you catch it early, it can be cured. So why not get checked?
In July, Colorectal Cancer Canada is hosting a string of events to educate the public and fundraise, including a series of walks and virtual events in 9 cities across the country. Saurabh Sandhu, CBC News, Vancouver.
To sports, and Canucks fans are breathing a little easier tonight. The team has agreed to an 8-year contract extension with Elias Pettersson.
I know it's going to be a big decision. That's why I wanted to wait to make sure I make the right decision for my life personally. And I am super happy with that. I'm just super excited to be here.
The deal is said to be worth an average of $11.6 million per year. The 25-year-old Swede was drafted 5th overall by the Canucks in 2017. Since then, he's scored 165 goals with 233 assists over a total of 387 games. His current contract, by the way, has a cap, and it's been hit at $7.35 million. It expires after this season. Well, the Whitecaps got a special 50th anniversary present this year. BC Place was packed this afternoon with the largest home opener crowd in the club's history. We caught up with fans to find out how they're feeling about the season ahead.
Who's your favorite player?
Whitecaps are the best!
Yeah, we're ready to go and ready to cheer on the Whitecaps.
The bit of gear I have is signed by Andres Cubas, so I'm really rooting for him this season.
If we can do a playoff run, that'd be nice.
I love the Southsiders. I love the fans. It makes me tear up when I see them marching down Robson.
Go Caps, go! Totally excited.
Going as far as we can, you know. I want to make the playoffs again. And that'll be amazing, but I just want to focus on winning, you know.
As for the results of this home opener, Charlotte FC scored first, but the Whitecaps were able to tie it up just before the half. Ultimately, there was no winner, though, as the two sides settled for a stalemate with a point apiece. The next game for the Whitecaps will be March 9th in San Jose. Well, this weekend marks the last Polar Plunge for Special Olympics BC. The bone-chilling event has been raising money for athletes and their competitions. And as Corey Bullock tells us, the Cranbrook Kimberley chapter played host this weekend in a fitting fashion, doing it during a blizzard.
A blustery and snowy day in Cranbrook. Not the most ideal weather for a swim, but that's not stopping Special Olympics athlete Samantha McLean from taking a plunge.
What are you doing here today? I'm gonna take the plunge and go in the cold water.
How are you feeling about that?
I don't know. It'll be fun. I'm doing it with my friends, and it's just for Special Olympics, so they do quite a bit for us athletes.
Despite the storm, dozens of people came out to support the Special Olympics.
It's awfully cold today. Of all the days, it's -3 now, windy, and lots of flurries.
Including Cranbrook's emergency personnel.
In our case here, we have a pool that's set up and sponsored by the firefighters. It's their training pool that holds about 1,000 gallons of water, cold water that we are intending to jump into and get freezing for a good reason.
The group aims to raise $5,000 this year. The third year, the Cranbrook Kimberley chapter has held the event, helping to provide invaluable opportunities for its 60 athletes.
They make lifelong friends and develop their skills through sport.
When I was younger, I was pretty shy and very away from people. But ever since I joined, I'm very social and bubbly.
The East Kootenay Polar Plunge comes as athletes return home this weekend from the 2024 Canada Winter Games in Calgary. The Cranbrook Kimberley chapter had 5 competitors, and athletes are bringing home gold and silver medals in alpine skiing and cross country.
Well, I'm looking forward to welcoming all the national athletes home tomorrow because they've been gone for a week now, so that's exciting. And there's going to be a lot of medals coming home.
Pretty big smiles. They're very happy.
The last Special Olympics Polar Plunge for the year will take place on Sunday in Nelson. Corey Bullock, CBC News, Cranbrook.
Well, this weekend, the people of Revelstoke are reviving their winter carnival just in time to celebrate the town's 125th anniversary. The event has been on a hiatus for some 2 decades now, but today roughly 1,000 people turned out to watch the outhouse races. That's right, outhouse races. We stopped by to check it out.
This is not a turd of a carnival.
Not at all.
Super fun. I mean, look at how many community members are out here. I will likely be a pusher or a puller. I'm definitely not sitting in it.
Anything that brings that amount of fun and community spirit, especially between like businesses, and it's a kind of a small knit business community. A lot of rivalry and fun, you know? Poke each other a little.
Celebrating the outdoor spirit of Revelstoke that is obviously so clearly alive here.
I think the turnout is great. It's so nice to see the community together, young and old, and we're about to start another race. Yay!
Well, still to come, a bachelor party in India is a star-studded affair featuring a handful of Hollywood A-listers and Stephen Harper. We'll have more on that story after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. In international news, more aid was dropped into Gaza today. Tens of thousands of meals for people facing a serious risk of famine. But as the CBC's Chris Reyes reports, critics say a small amount of food will only go so far. And a warning, viewers may find some of these images disturbing.
In Gaza, where famine looms, this drop of food is meant to be life-saving. 38,000 meals delivered by the U.S. military. The desperation is palpable, but for those who have been living through months of horrific war, it's also not the kind of help they want. This man, displaced from his home, says, the U.S. is part of this crime against Gaza. America is trying to buy our silence by sending us aid. It's better for us to live in war than to get aid from America. Another Palestinian, also displaced, says airdrops are not enough. He'd rather see bordering Egypt opening its crossings. The parachute aid is not enough for one family. This is nothing, he says. Aid delivery by land into Gaza has become increasingly chaotic, dangerous, and deadly. Earlier this week, the Hamas-run Ministry of Health said Israeli forces shot more than 100 Palestinians as they waited for aid delivery. Israel has challenged that account, saying many of the victims were run over by trucks. More than aid, the louder call worldwide is for a ceasefire, including in Winnipeg, Manitoba.
It's over 5 months into this genocide. Ramadan is coming up. Just have some humanity and please give us a ceasefire and let the people of Gaza live.
Also in Washington, D.C., more protests.
We're dropping some food and we're dropping the bombs and the tanks and the bullets and everything else at the same time. That's what he's got to do. Stop sending the money and the weapons.
With no ceasefire, this is the horrific reality for civilians in Gaza, injured and killed as airstrikes continue. U.S. officials tell reporters on a call that outlines of a peace deal are in place and will depend on Hamas agreeing to releasing hostages. Meanwhile, ceasefire negotiations are expected to resume tomorrow in Cairo. Chris Reyes, CBC News, New York.
Meanwhile, a march numbering in the thousands entered Jerusalem today, demanding the release of the hostages still being held by Hamas. The march began Wednesday, beginning at the site of one of the October 7th attacks. It entered Jerusalem at sundown today. Families of hostages led the way. Yesterday, Hamas claimed 7 hostages had recently been killed in Israeli strikes. At least 250 people were abducted on October 7th. More than 100 were released during November's short-lived truce. Well, Germany is investigating audio that purports to record top military officials discussing the Ukraine war. It was published yesterday in Russian media. So far, Germany has not said whether it believes the recording is authentic. In the war today, drones hit residential areas in both Russia and Ukraine. One hit an apartment building in the Ukrainian port city of Odessa. 8 people died. More are missing. In Russia, a drone hit an apartment building in St. Petersburg. No serious injuries were reported there. There is speculation it was a Ukrainian weapon shot down while headed for a fuel depot. A bachelor party in India is making news this weekend, partly because the host is reportedly the richest man in Asia, and partly because of the guest list. 28-year-old Anant Ambani is the groom-to-be. The get-together is a garden party, a 1,200-hectare garden party. A singer's been hired as well. That would be Rihanna. And among those invited to celebrate, Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, Ivanka Trump, and former Canadian Prime Minister Stephen Harper. Throwing the lavish bash is Ambani's father, who has an estimated worth of $111 billion. And here's a live shot of Burrard Inlet facing the North Shore. More showers are on tap to round out the rest of your weekend. I'll be back with your 5-day forecast coming up next.
Hey, I'm Rohith Joseph. Vibin' is the new show all about discovering great new songs and fresh artists from across BC and beyond. Stream Vibin' on CBC Listen.
And it's time for the 5-day forecast. Let's start with those overnight temperatures. Chilly in some parts and some lingering flurries in others. First of all, a snowfall warning in effect for Arrow Lakes and Slocan Lake. This is in the southern interior towards the Kootenays. 15 centimeters tonight. Also on eastern Vancouver Island from Courtenay to Campbell River. Another snowfall warning. That's for 5 to 10 centimeters of snow overnight. Now, this is all because of this new system that is pressing through. You can see it's really sticking to the south coast, the southern interior, and in through the Kootenays, bringing with it mainly some lingering flurries, as we said, changing over to freezing snow showers. Of course, depending on how close to zero we get during the day, a little bit colder overnight, and that's why we're seeing those snow mixes for the most part. The northern part of the province is under that high pressure system for the most part, again, for the next few days. That's why it's not seeing that same precipitation as we're seeing down south. Now, for tomorrow, we will see those lingering flurries possible for the southern interior through the Okanagan, the Kootenays as well. Prince George, though, it is very cold up there. We were talking about that high pressure system. Prince George, -12 is the high tomorrow. The average is +3. And Fort St. John, similar, -21 the high tomorrow. The average high is -2, so certainly colder than seasonal values up north. Here's the 5-day forecast for Metro Vancouver. As we said, some snow showers, likely sticking just to rain, though, as we stay on the plus side of that freezing mark. And then it looks like we'll dry out a little bit come Tuesday and possibly see the sun as well. And that is your late news for this Saturday, March 2nd. For news anytime, anywhere, download the free CBC News app. You can always find us online at cbc.ca/BC. Your next local newscast is on North by Northwest on CBC Radio 1. That starts tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock. Thanks so much for sharing your weekend with us. Good night.